Hey everybody, so today I thought we could color this super cute Magnolia image called Tilda with Her Kookaburra. And I've already stamped my image on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And if you'd like to color along with me, head over to the store and grab a kit. And to find out if she's still available, just type Tilda with Kookaburra into the search bar at the top of the store and it will pop up. And I'll put a link to the store down in the description box. Otherwise, I hope you're going to have fun coloring with me today, and let's get started. So I'm going to start out by coloring her skin, and for that I'm going to use E21, E00, and E000. And let's start down here on her legs. So I'm going to start with my E21, and I'm going to add some shadows. Let's go in here, go underneath of her leg, and she's got this great little knee outline, so I'm going to go along that. And I'm going to go down this leg, like that, maybe dip out here just a little bit. And same for this side, we're going to go underneath of her shorts, and then we're going to go underneath this cute little knee there, like that. And this one's kind of bent down, so I'm going to go ahead and do this side too. And then I'm going to grab my E00, and I want to touch down on top of my E21, and I'm just going to flick out here into my white. And just leave a little bit of space over there for my last color. And then same for this side, touch down on top of my E21 and flick into my white space while leaving just a little bit there for my last color. And then I'm going to fill that in with E000. Okay, and then I'll let that dry. I'll see if it needs another coat. So let's go up here and we're going to do her arm. So let's go underneath, and again I've grabbed my E21. I'm going to go right along her sleeve there. Give her a little finger, a little dip there. And then let's do her thumb. And she's got a great little, some little dots there that the artist put on here already for us for a shadow, so I'm just going to use those. And then she's got a few up here on the top of her hand, so I'm going to give her hand a little dip in right there. And then for her other arm, I'm going to go over here, and because her arm is bent, I want to get underneath. And then the bird's kind of sitting on her hand, so he's going to be casting a shadow, so I'm going to go along that arm. And then let's get this elbow in right next to her sleeve. And then where the bird is sitting on her hand, I'm going to go ahead and draw underneath of him. Like that. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E00 again and touch down on top of your E21 and flick out into your white. And I'm going to leave the top of her arm uncolored there so I can add my E000. And I'm going to go like that and blend that little shadow area there that I had. Okay, and then over here, we're going to go ahead and get our hand. And then we're going to flick down into her arm here. Soften that line. And I'm going to grab E000, and I want to fill that space in. Same for over here. I got a little bit of a line there underneath my bird, so I'm going to flick my E000 right over the top of that and soften it a little bit more. Next, let's go up here and do her neck. So again, I've grabbed my E21. And we're just going to go right underneath of her chin there. And over here I'm going to leave just a little bit right there for my E00. And then for her face, I'm going to go up here And leave just a little bit on the edge there. And of course I want to go up here and I want to go around her bangs. She's got some really cute little flowers in her hair. And then her face is tipped. Tip her a little bit more this way, over towards the side. So I'm going to flick this side out just a little bit further. Like that. And then she doesn't have a nose, so I'm going to give her a little bit of a definition there. So I'm going to start over here at this side of her eye, and I'm just going to kind of go like this and through her eye, and then make a little point at that side. And then I'm going to go past this side just a little bit, like that. Okay, then I'm going to grab my E00. I'm going to fill in her neck. So I'm going to go down here and just kind of rub the edge of that line a little bit and spread that out. And then I'm going to go up here onto her face. I touch down on my E21. I'm just going to pull that color out here into the middle. Same for this side. And work my way up here along her bangs. Soften that line. And of course I want to do her nose, so I go right over the top of that. And then I'm going to grab my E00, and I want to fill that space in. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to add our cheek color, and then I'll add some more colors. So I'm going to go with my E for my cheeks. I'm going to use R22, R20, and R30, and I'm going to start with R22. And I want it to be the rosiest right out here on the outside. So I'm going to go right along the edge there, and then pull that color out. And I love that there's already some little dots there for me. Kind of gives me a little space for her cheek. And then same for this side. I want to get right along the edge, and I'm just going to draw a little line there so I don't draw outside of her face. I do that. And then I'm going to grab R20. And again, you want to touch down on top of your R22 and make your cheeks just a little bit wider. And we're pulling that color out towards the center. And then I'm going to take R30 and soften that edge just a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to go back with my skin tones again. So I've got E21. And I'm just going to flick that from the side here. And pull that into the middle. And then same for this side. Just flick right over the top of that cute little cheek. And then I'm going to grab E00. We got to soften that line. I'm going to pull my color past her cheek. Same for this side. Pull that color out here into the middle. And I think I'll brush up here a little bit and down here a little bit. And then I'm going to fill it in with my E00. And flick up here a little. And then after it's dried, if her cheeks have lost some of their pink and you want to add some more, you're just going to add another coat. So for her hair and her boots, we're going to use E44, 43, 42, and 41. And I'm going to start with E44. And let's go ahead and go up here and start on her hair. And I'm going to start down here on these little pigtails. So I want to add a little bit of my E44 right underneath where that pigtail has, she's got a little ponytail wrapper in there. And then of course I want to get on top of that too. So I'm just using the very tip of my pen and giving it a little flick. And then right here, underneath of her arm, she's got a little bit of her hair showing. So I'm going to go right along the edge there and give that a little flick. And then over here on this side, we're going to do the same thing. So we want to give right underneath that little ponytail wrapper a little flick. And then we want to, of course, do on top of the ponytail wrapper again a little bit. Pull that up here. And then where it comes out underneath of her arm, I'm going to give it a little bit. Like that. And then I'm going to move up here. And right here where it's going underneath into her arm, behind her arm, I'm going to give that just a little bit. My E44. And then right here, it looks like it's kind of dipping in. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit in that little dip. And then right here, it looks like it's coming out from underneath. So I'm going to flick that just a little bit. Like so. And then right here, it looks like it's again curving in. So I'm going to give that a couple little streaks. And I'm actually going to make it go down this way, flick a little bit. And then right here, it comes out from underneath this flower. So I'm going to give that a little dab. And then she's got a headband, so don't color that, but I want to get right where it's coming out of the headband. And then right here where she's got her part, I want to add a little bit of a few dark strands. Okay, so that's pretty good for that side. So let's go over here and do this side. And right here where it's dipping behind her shirt, I'm going to give a little bit right there. And then this little curly key looks like it's dipping in. So I'm going to give that some dark strands. And then again, right up here, where it looks like it's dipping, I'm going to add some dark. And I'm going to flick this way so my brush will thin out. And then right up in here, well, let's go up here and do this part too. So for the part, I'm going to add some streaks coming away from her part. And then right here where it's coming out from underneath the headband. Okay, and then up in here, it looks like her hair kind of dips into like a little curl, like it waves down. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit right there where it looks like it's waving down. I'm also going to add a couple little flicks on this side. Okay, and same thing with right here. It looks like it's kind of dipping in. So I'm going to go ahead and make my own little dip by giving some dark streaks right there. Okay, that looks really good for a first shadow coat. So now I'm going to grab E43 and I'm going to go back down where I started and we're going to add a few more streaks. So I'm just going to go right over the top of my 44 and pull down. And that's such a small area right there behind her finger that I'm going to fill that in. And then over here, we're going to go down. Like that. I love her hair, it's so cute. Okay, and then we're just going to work our way up. Same with this side. And be careful, she's got her headband right there, so you don't want to color that. It's kind of dipping in between her hair right there. Okay, and let's go over here and do this side. So over here we've got a little bit like that. And then let's pull this up like so. And then we want to add to these little dip ins she's got. Okay, and then of course we want to do over here, she's got a little bit of her bangs showing, and up here by her roots. Alright, that's looking good. Okay, so now we're going to grab E42, and we want to add some more color, so but we want to leave enough that we can put our very last color on, so you don't want to color it all the way in. Leave a little bit. Work my way up here. And then go to this side. A little bit of this right next to her hairband right there. And go up here by our roots. Okay, so that leaves us with E41, so we're going to fill it in, or you can also leave a little bit of white showing through, it just is personal preference. Get this little ponytail while I'm down here. You can be real careful at the end there, that's kind of a little dinky spot. Okay, and then let's go to this side. And then fill in this one. And up here, right next to that little headband there. Okay, now I like to go back with my E44 and add a few little streaks again. So I'm going to go up here and add some more shadows. And I'm just using the tip of my pen. And so it's making some little tiny strands. And I'm just working my way down to the bottom. And of course down here our ponytail. And let's work up our way up the other side. Add a few little strands in there, just gives it a little bit more definition. Like that. Doesn't she look cute? So now let's go and do our boots. So for her boots, whoops, I'm going to start with E44, and I'm going to give a little line right behind these little buttons back here. I go just with the tip of my pen, and go right around those buttons and right down the back. And then for her shoe, I'm going to go down the back of her shoe, and I'm going to go along the sole up here to this curve. And I want to do above this little dip in her shoe, and here's a little dip. And then I think I'll actually do a little bit underneath of this little fold over part of her boot. And then for the soles, I'm going to bring this color out like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go behind these buttons. I'm just going to draw a line, very small line behind that. And then she's got a little dip right here in her shoe. I'm going to add there and go underneath that little fold again. And then we're going to bring this out here and the sole again, the sole on this side. And then I want to add a little bit of this. She's got some lines or some dots already on her boot. So I'm just going to use those as my guide and add my shadow right here on the front. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. Okay, so now I'm going to go with E43, and I want to touch down on the 44. And back here, we're just going to pull that color out all the way to the edge because it's a very small area. It's almost filled in already. Okay, Okay, and then for this, again, we want to soften that line, so I'm touching down on top of my 44. And we're just going to pull this over here like this, and I want to fill in this sole. Okay, and same for this side. I want to do right next to those buttons. And then I'm going to soften these lines. Fill in my sole. Okay, and then for the little top part that's folded over, I want to add some color over here, and she's got a little dip in right here, so I'm going to bring this line in a little bit further, like that. Same for this side, she's got a little dip, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that line in. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E42, and let's touch down over here. We're going to soften this up. And leave the top of her boot for our lightest color. And this side, we'll leave a little bit of our light in there for that top of the boot. And then I'm going to pull this around like so. We'll soften those lines up just a little bit more. And then I'm going to grab E41, and I'm going to fill this all the way in. And if you color the buttons, that's fine, because we're going to color those with the E44, and they're going to be dark brown anyway, so it won't matter if you get some on there. And I'm just going to go over the whole thing just to smush all those colors together and soften my boot up. I think I'll actually go back here too behind my buttons a little bit. Okay, and I'm liking how that looks, so I'm going to take my E44 and I'm going to color these buttons in. And I didn't worry about the strings, because later, after I got all finished coloring, I came back with my white paint pen and I just drew the strings back on. They were really white, made them look really cute. So next, let's go up here and work on her shirt and her headband, which I did green. So I'm going to go ahead and just start up here at her headband. So I'm going to have G43 and G40. And so this side, since her head is tipped to the side, I'm just going to color the G43 all the way in on that headband. And then over here on this one, I'm going to give it a little dab where those flowers are, just a little bit on this side. And then over here, we want to get where the flowers are touching it, and a little bit where it dips into her hair. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to get her shirt. So I want to go right next to those coveralls. And she's got a little bit of lace showing right here. I'm going to try not to color that. And then down here her shirt is showing from underneath of her coverall. And then we'll go up here. We're going to go right around this lace, because I actually left that lace white. And then we're going to go over here and get the shirt. The sleeve, let's get that, dip in with that one, and then I'm going to go up the side right here, and right next to that coverall. She's got a little dip right there in her shoulder. Oh, and while we got this color out too, let's go ahead and color these little hair bands. And then just build those in. Now I'm going to grab G40, and up here on her hairband, we want to just color that little section in. So I make sure to touch down on top of my G43 and pull towards the center. And then we'll go down here and get her shirt. Same thing, touch on your G43 and pull your G40 out towards the edge. This section. I'm liking this green color. I hadn't used it before very much. You get in a rut and you use the same colors over and over, and so when you find a new one, I have to make sure I'll have to make a swatch card to put in my book, because I think this looks really pretty. So for her coveralls, we're going to use BG 75, 72, 70, and quadruple 0, and we're also going to use B12. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start up here with these flowers, and I'm going to start with BG 75. And I didn't worry about these dots because I'm going to go back with my white Sharpie paint pen and remake those. I'm just going to give a dab of my BG 75 right there in the center of each of those flowers. I'm going to grab 72 and touch down on top of your 75, and I'm pulling it out just a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to take my B12 and I'm going to go over the two colors I just put down, but I'm going to pull past just a little bit. There's not much space left, so you got to be careful. And then I'm going to take my, whoops, not that one, BG quadruple 0, and I'm just going to swirl it over the whole thing and fill it in. And that's all there was to those flowers. So next, let's go down here and do her coveralls. And again, I'm going to start with my BG 75. And let's add a little bit of that up here at the top of her straps. Same for this side. Oops, and there's a little bitty section of shirt right there that I missed. Tiny, tiny, right on this side of that coverall strap there. Fill that in. Okay, so now I'm going to take my BG 75 again, and I'm going to, let's give a little bit of that right above this pocket. That. And then down here on her legs, I'm going to go right, there's a little line right there, so I'm going to define that line just a little bit more. I'm going to pull this cuff out just a little bit. And then right here there's a little wrinkle, so I'm going to go ahead and make that wrinkle. And then over here, that looks like it dips in, so I'm going to dip that. And right here where she's got a crease in her pants, we want to dip that. I'm just adding some shadows. And right here is a little wrinkle in her pants, so I'm going to put that there. And then again, she's got her little wrinkle over here that they drew in for us. And maybe right next to that cuff, just a tiny, tiny bit. Okay, I just wanted to use that very sparingly just to add some shadows. Now I'm going to grab BG 72, and I'm going to go back up here to the top, and I want to brush a little bit on top of these straps. Okay, and then let's go down here. And I'm going to pull this color just a little bit on the sides of these little, where her cuffs are rolled up. Same for this side. And then I want to go over each of these lines a little bit just to soften that edge. I'm going to go actually brush a little bit next to that cute little pocket thing she's got there. Now let's go down here and brush over that edge. And I'm going to bring this color, and if you color over these little dots, it's not a tragedy because we're going to color those brown. So don't stress over that. And the same down here, let's go ahead and brush over that line. Oops. And same for these dots. If you accidentally color them, that's fine. And then I'm going to brush away from that little pocket thing there. And I'm going to go ahead and add my color right along the edge of that, like that. Then I'm going to go up here, and because I colored this line up here above her pocket, I want to add a little bit more color. And I'm going to brush away from her pocket there, and I'm being careful not to get on that lace because we're going to leave that white. Then I better go down here and go along the edge of this little pocket thing here. Like that. because BG72 to BG70 is such a huge color difference, I'm going to tip it. So I've got my BG72 and I've got my BG70, and I'm just going to wipe it on the end of my brush, or end of my 72, and pick up a little bit of color on the end. And then I'm going to start up here at her coveralls, and I'm going to touch down on top of the color that's already there and brush down. And I still got quite a bit, so I'm going to go do this side too. And brush it a little bit more on each side so I can run out of color. And again, if you color those buttons, it's no big deal because we are going to color those brown. And then let's go down here and we'll do the same thing with the jeans. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my BG72 on to my 70. I'm going to touch down on the color that's already there and pull that color out into the middle of those little cuffs. And you just pick up more color from your pens as you go. We're just going to work our way up our pants. Go around those little dots. And again, if you color over them, no big deal, because we're going to color over them with brown. Just work my way up here. I'm going to go ahead and fill this little section up here in. Let's go back down here and get this section. And this side. Okay, let's go ahead and color over this little flap thing that she's got right there, that little pocket thing, or zipper. And this little line right here, still here just a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit more color right there. Okay, that looks pretty good. So if you have a little bit of ink left on your pen, you're just going to brush that off onto a scratch piece of paper. And I'll need that for later, so I'm going to put that over here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my B12, and I want to add a little bit of blue. So I'm going to go up here to the top, and I'm going to add some blue to her top of her coverall straps. And then same thing down here. We're just going to lightly brush some blue right onto those other colors. It's just adding a nice second shade in there. Work my way up here, the top of that coverall, down the sides. Okay, for this little pocket right here, I'm going to brush my blue in. I'm going to go ahead and get this little zipper like that. Then I'm going to grab BG quadruple 0 and I'm going to brush over the whole thing. So I'm just going to go back and forth right along the whole section. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of my blue-green to that little pocket right there too. I'm going to go down here, brush up here, and then we're going to go over this. And again, don't worry about that button. I'm just going to color right over the top of it and bring this blue-green down to the very end. Okay, and fill in that pocket. Okay, but I think the pocket needs to be a little bit more blue-green, so I'm going to grab BG72. Just going to very lightly flick in from the edges Let's add a little bit down here to that. And I'm going to grab BG70 because it's too dark. And I'm going to pick a little bit off the edge and just soften this in there just a little bit. Let's get down here on the zipper. I actually think there's still a line right here I'm not liking, so I'm going to put a little bit more color right there. And same for this side. Let's add a little bit more of this blue-green right here. Right around that button. Okay, so I'm liking that. That looks pretty good. But I'm going to take my blue again, my B12, and I'm going to flick over this pocket just a little bit more. And then with my BG quadruple zero, I'm just going to go over that whole thing. And I'm going to go over these legs a little bit more. Okay, I'm liking how those look. So let's take our E44 and we're going to color in these little dots. So I'm just going to brush right over the top of those. Same for this side. Same for my buttons. And again, I took my white paint pen after I was all done, and I put the strings back on onto those buttons. I wasn't worried about coloring over the top of them. Like that. Oh, those are cute overalls. Okay, let's go do our bird up here. And for our bird, for his body, we're going to use E42 and E41. So I'm going to grab E42 first. And I want his head to be a little bit darker over here on this side. So I'm just going to touch down on the edge of his face and just flick my E42 into the middle like that, so that my pen will get lighter as it goes out here. Now I'm going to brush down along the bottom of his little cheek. Okay, and then for each of these little ruffles, his feathers, I just took the end of my pen and just very lightly went along underneath each one. For his body. Just add a little dab of that. Until I got down here. And then I grabbed E41 and I filled in up here underneath this thing, and I'm just going to swirl my brush around and blend all those colors together. And I'm trying not to get a bunch on his wing. And then we're going to brush right over the edge of that line. And color right there. And it's got a little bit of a line here, so I'm going to go over his head just one more time. Okay, like that. He looks pretty good. So for his beak, we're going to use E44. And let's do his feet too. So let's go ahead and color in his feet with the E44. That'll get that out of the way. We won't have to mess with that anymore. They're little dinky ones, so just use the very end of your brush. Okay, and for his beak, I used the E44 along the very edge where it's touching his face, just on the top part. And then I grabbed E43, and again, I'm just using on the top of his beak. I just want to soften that line just a little bit. And then I'm going to fill the rest of that top part in with E42. And then I took E41 and colored the bottom. And if you still have a little bit of line, you could go over the top of his beak too, just to soften it. Like that. Okay, so for his wings and around his eye, we're going to use BG72, B12, BG70, and then for his cheek, we're going to use R30. So I'm going to take my BG72 first, and I'm just going to color this little thing he has around his eye. And just fill that in like that. And then for his wings, we're going to go down here and we're going to brush the top of his wing. And then I'm going to take my BG70 and I want to tip to tip it. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my color. We're going to pull that down. Pick up a little bit more for this side. And pull that down until we run out. down here at the bottom, like that. And then I'm going to take my B12, and I want to add a little bit of this blue in there. So I'm just going to brush right over the top, like that. And I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to take, whoops, my R30, and I want to give him a little bit of a cheek color. So I'm just going to go in here and give him some cheek. Like that. Oh, and I forgot his little tail down here. Right here on the top of her hand, he's got just a little bit of his tail showing. So I'm going to take my BG72, give that a little brush, pick up with my BG70. Oh, and I got a little bit still left on there, so let me just use that. On there, right here to the end. And then I'm going to give it a little flick of my B12, just to give it some blue. So let's go give her something to stand on. So I'm going to go down here. For that I'm going to use E42 and E41. And I'm going to start with E42. And I'm going to say the ground's going to come out right here where her little boot has this cuff thing. And I'm just going to flick that out here. And you can go all the way to the edge of your paper, or you can just go a little bit out. That's totally up to you. And the same for this side. I'm just going to use that little dot on her boot as a reference. I'm just going to flick away from her shoe. Okay, but I want her to have a little bit more shadows underneath her, so I'm going to go ahead and just touch down right next to her boot and pull this color away from her, and down here too. And then I'm going to take E41 and we're going to fill it in. So we're going to touch down on top of your 42, and you're just going to flick that color out. And you can fill it all the way in, or you can just leave it part way. Totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and fill mine all the way in down here. And if you want to darken her up just a little bit where she's standing, you just go back with your 42 and flick some more color on. And then just soften it with your 41. So for the outline, we're going to use C0, C00 in our colorless blender. I'm going to start with C0, and I'm just going to go all the way around my girl. So let's start here at the boot. And we're just going to go with the tiny line in between. And she's got a little spot between her legs there. I'm going to get that. And then down here, and some of these spaces are small, so I'm just going to fill them in like right here and right there. And I'm just going to work my way around. There's a little space in between her hair. And right here in between her shirt. And we want to go around our bird. I go up here, around him. Oh, I'm going to get in here between her hair. So fill that in. And work my way back down and around. Fill that little space in and around to the ground like that. Then I'm going to take C0 and I'm just going to go right over the edge of that. And then the inside, there's still a little bit left, so I'm going to fill that in. And then I'm going to go right over that C0 and make my line wider. And I'm not being neat or tidy about it. I'm just widening out my line. Until I get back to the end. Then I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm going to put down out here where it's white, and I'm just going to swirl in, trying not to touch her. But I'm just going to go in a circle and go all the way around, touching both those colors and swirling them together. And even though I colored this all the way in, it's a little, got a few lines there, so I'm going to just go over it real quick. And you're just going to decide, I want it to fade out at the edge, so you may need to go over it again. I'll go over this side again here and soften that edge just a little bit. Like that. But that is our colored Tilda with Kookaburra. So here's our card all finished up. I've put her onto some really cute fancy pants paper, and this is a little memory box die here. I put some stickles, or not stickles, some Spica glitter pin clear in her hair. You can't see it on the picture, but it's in there. And then I added my Sharpie white paint pen to these little flowers, her cheeks, and then the little strings on the buttons here. And in this kit, you're going to also get this package of blush pearls, so you can add those, you know, wherever you want to. I put them on the butterflies and here on the card. But I hope you had fun coloring with me today, and I hope to see you in the store. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.